candidate. That's all. What's all about. We're live. I know. We'll just
He's got he, him pronouns in his LinkedIn page.
I know. Pull this up, Dawson. We're going to get started right here.
About?
Yeah, right. This is the candidate you're going up against the primary. So in other words, did he pledge that he would abide by the endorsement?
Yes.
And this seems to be a pattern that they just don't follow their own pledges. This is third one down, I think.
That doesn't help me. You got to tell me what it is.
Oh, link. It's a link. That's a Twitter link, and it shows Joe Frazier. It's his Wells Fargo. Click on that left one. No, go back there. Yep, that one. Click on that. It's got a him on it.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder if Wells Fargo makes people do that. If there wasn't already enough reason not to ever work for Wells Fargo, because that's just, of all banks, I don't do business with those guys.
Right.
They're bad. There was a big scandal, 10 years ago or something like that? They were just milking their customers for money. But the fact that you got to do him, or do you think he just does it himself? What do you think?
Well, I mean, the reality is this is indicative of the entire permanent political class.
Yeah.
And the sort of swamp creatures that are in or are bred and brought up into American politics. This is indicative of the whole thing. People think this is a casual issue. This is a casual sort of, finding that he has him pronouns on his LinkedIn. Either way, it's a huge indictment of his character. Mm-hmm. If Wells Fargo, if the NBA came to Royce White as a rookie and said, you're going to put him pronouns in your bio, I tell him to go bite a hog. Mm-hmm. That's who I am.
Right.
If he does it on his own, it's corny because what he's really doing is bending to the social pressure of something that makes no sense. If you identify as trans, I don't agree with the lifestyle. I don't agree with the thought process.
Right.
But if you do identify as trans, I understand you changing your pronouns. At least it's in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
You want the outside world to talk to you or view you differently than normal. When you are the biological gender that you suggest in your pronouns, it's a complete virtue signal.
It's a virtue signal.
And it means that it means you're willing to bend to social pressure, and those are the exact people that'll sell you out the first chance they get as soon as they step foot in Washington, D.C. And that's exactly what's wrong with this country. Right there. We don't have to go no further. Any voter in Minnesota who thinks that they need more information about the difference between me and Joe Frazier beyond him putting him pronouns in his LinkedIn page, they don't understand what we're dealing with.
We're here with Royce White. We started late because we had some trouble with locals getting that feed up, but we will do our post-show on locals.
Yep.
This is The Truth Hurts. I'm Jake Duesenberg, by the way. We expose corrupt politicians, right? As we start off, by the way, they didn't even hear the conversation. The whole list of endorsements, corrupt politicians, like Paul Gazelka. I don't even talk about that guy much, but I got a lot about that dude. And the lying corporate media, which you're probably getting used to at this point, Royce, right? Royce.
A little bit.
By the way, congratulations on your first victory in the Big Three.
Yeah, that was fun. We needed it.
Yeah.
We needed it.
Well,
0-2 is a death nail.
your first game was close too, but
yeah, 0-2 is a death. Well, we should have won the first game.
Yeah.
And I'm just still getting in. I'm still getting in the swing of things. It's always a process the first couple of weeks. New players, new teammates, new season. So.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of process first 2 weeks. You just want to get out at least 500 because if you're 0-2, that's a death nail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like to see Glenn Rice Jr. play because I actually watched his dad play, so it kind of makes me think.
Feel a little older.
Yeah, started to think, uh-oh.
He was at the game, too.
Was he really?
He was at the game.
We got Bridget filling the comments. We already got a Rumble rant.
Tucker91 says Benson, Gazelka, Qualls all failed their last campaigns.
There you go. Pull up that graphic there. That's an endorsement by – if you were just wondering, this Joe Frazier, which I've never met the guy. Maybe he's a nice dude, but listen, we know what's going on here. They want a milquetoast candidate. Play it safe. No, that's the other one. Those are the federal cronies.
I
get it,
put on every single one of these people look the exact freaking same to me. I see no difference between any of them.
That's Mr. Deep State Dawson there.
They look what?
They all look the same. Because they are. They are the same people.
Yeah.
This is Michelle Benson, Gazelka, Kendall Qualls. Yes, they all did fail on their last gubernatorial campaigns. Gazelka, literally, this guy was a massive rhino. He's actually the reason we had so much trouble repealing Governor Walz's mercy powers because our governor shut down our whole state. And this guy who presided over a Republican Senate, they had 3 Republicans over the Democrats, a majority, and we couldn't even get a vote in the Senate until June of 2020 when he finally had a primary challenger and he got into He started behaving. We'll put it that way. When politicians start behaving. So there you go. That's all the endorsements. Mega Jessie, by the way, also joined us on the show here.
Yeah, to that point, Benson, she couldn't even make her campaign at the convention in 2022.
Jesse,
she had no support.
I don't think that your mic is plugged in.
Is this
Oh,
mic
really?
not plugged in?
No, I don't
your
think
mic's
so.
not plugged in.
Oh my God, Deep State cutting him
All right.
off. Look at that. That's exactly what's happening. By the way, while we wait for Jesse, because we do care what he has to say, I see Carol Hexham's in the comment section.
Yeah,
if
she
you guys
just
want
jumped
to
in.
comment, please do. Also, you can interrupt us anytime with a Rumble rant. This is something. I think Carol's the one that sent this to me. Actually, yeah. Fight for our Otter Tail County. Our people like you. They like you. This is them proudly showing their support for Royce White at the state convention, which you won the endorsement on the first bout, 67%. If you see the yellow shirts here, that is the Otter Tail County people who are disenfranchised by the Republican establishment, really what I believe is run by Tom Emmer, and essentially, promoting you and saying, I know they love you. They talk about you all the time. And now you're like the target by the establishment, so it seems like you're going to get more love.
I didn't really have a lot of information about the Otter Tail County situation prior to the convention. I was told about it, and look, if you show up to the convention to participate and you're not allowed to participate, I have concern about that. Obviously, these people were enthusiastic about participating, and just in general, we have an under participation in Republican Party politics across the country.
Right.
So, I was supportive of them hopefully being seated and being involved in the process when I won. A lot of them helped volunteer at my booth during the convention. Mm-hmm. And I think we paid as a campaign for them to be able to volunteer, which we needed to do. And when I won, they stood up there, and I tried to bring people together in a spirit of unity. But clearly these people want war.
Yeah.
And whoever they are, because a lot of people are doing it behind the scenes. Obviously, some aren't, like Norm and Palenti and Rudy and Michelle and Kendall and all of these. See, all of these people think the politics are going to be nice now.
Yeah.
There's nothing nice about it. Now, what they hope is that your average American citizen is so brainwashed and indoctrinated with this format of political niceties that when I confront these individuals, they'll be taken aback by it on the front end, from the outset. And that's what we got to break down in this country. We have got to break down the nicety of American politics. If we don't, we'll continue to lose our country, which we already are deep in the process of, and the nail will be put in the coffin here shortly.
Well, that's actually what we're not being told. In fact, we're being told the opposite, that the division's bad and that we need to be nice. There's a group in Minnesota. What is it called, Jesse? You know what I'm talking about. It's the middle, Happy in the Middle or something?
The Common Ground, whatever they're called. You're saying like that moderate caucus?
Yeah,
or
that
whatever?
moderate caucus, and they're like, yeah.
Main Street, something like that.
There might be
I
a
don't know.
bunch, actually, that we're thinking of
There's
here.
nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with unity. There's nothing wrong with coming together. There's nothing wrong with cooperation. The question is, what are the ideas?
Exactly.
Right, and
why
you've
not
definitely
unity
been
over
getting
the
your
Constitution? Why not unity?
These
against
people are
selling
heretics.
Money.
These people are heretics. It's no wonder that they're so anti-God, and it's on both sides of the aisle. It's no wonder. They're heretics.
Jesse, we'll get to
Yeah.
you.
I
You
gotta
got to
interrupt
rumble
you.
here.
Failed candidate says those arrogant bastards think they know better than us, but the people are coming.
Yeah. Well, what would failed candidate know, right? I'm just kidding. What do you got,
But,
Jesse?
yeah, to your point of unity and cooperation, I know you're getting your own endorsements too. You've got Kerry Lake, you got Matt Gaetz, and of course, obviously, the Minnesota Republican Party. So it's not like it's not like it's all lined up for Frazier. I mean, you've got the America First people behind you. I mean, anybody that is conservative, period. I don't think there's conservatives voting for Joe Frazier because they're just voting for the status quo establishment to continue. So it's not like you don't have any support because, I mean, look at that. You got Matt Gaetz, Kerry Lake. Those are two huge names, and I hope that I hope they help you out in the campaign and everything. Yeah. Especially Matt Gaetz. It'd be awesome to get Gaetz in Minnesota here.
Matt is one of my biggest supporters. Matt is incredible. He's done an incredible job there in the Congress. He stood up when other people wouldn't. He called out the lobbying and special interest money, which is really what we're looking at here at the local and state level. It's fruit from the same poisonous tree. And to that effect, none of those people who endorsed Joe Frazier would like Matt Gaetz. And that's the clear divide.
Right.
I mean, that's the clear
Exactly.
divide in this country. And to get into what I was saying, though, is these people are heretics. They believe in a heresy of the West that has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's a commonly held belief that all majorities are righteous or made equal. That's the heresy of democracy, which is why our founding fathers made it clear that we live in a representative and constitutional republic, not a democracy, because democracies end up being mob rule.
Right.
And mob rule right now isn't just the Democrats and their kangaroo witch hunt, show trial courts, weaponized courts. It's the uniparty Republicans who can't bring themselves to vote for a convicted felon because they are so married to the idea of rule of law, as though rule of law can never cross over into unrighteousness.
Oh, of course, yeah.
These people believe in government as their highest authority and deity. And it's Gazelka, and it's Qualls, and it's Benson, and it's Rudy, and it's Norm, and it's Tim Pawlenty. And we could keep going right on that. If you're in Minnesota and you believe in these people or vote for these people, you deserve the gulag you're going to end up in. And you will end up in a gulag. And make no mistake about it. You can play nice with these people if you want to. When the Nazis go door to door, when the Bolsheviks go door to door, they don't care what your status was yesterday. They'll kill you just the same.
Well, I mean, we're taking an extreme to make a point, but, the extreme didn't seem that much during COVID when literally Gazelka did absolutely nothing.
What's the
when
extreme? Wait.
Well, that we're in the gulag.
Oh,
I
no,
mean,
no,
yeah,
no,
it
no,
seems
no,
like
no.
that's the direction we're heading.
No, we're not heading there. We're there.
You think so?
We're there now.
See, this is what we like about you.
We're there right now.
throw this stuff out there.
We're not.
This,
no.
This gets people
See,
interested.
the question becomes, what is the event horizon?
Yeah.
What's the event horizon for going into the gulags? Was it when they actually started going door to door in Nazi Germany and rounding up the Jews, or was it when the working class that became the bourgeoisie, and then they unionized, and then they created a police state, and then they used the police state to crush their political opposition? That was the event horizon in Nazi Germany. It wasn't once they started going to round up the Jews. That was way downstream. And once they started to go round up the Jews, everybody was so scared. They were, now what do we do? Now you can't do anything. Now you sit back and you pray and you hope and you wait. That's what you get to do. And that's what the American people are going to get to do next. It's already coming. And everybody thinks it's okay because everything still works fine. You can go down to your local pub and drink your wine. I got the wine hat. You can go drink your wine. You can go eat your appetizers. You can go down to the mall. You can go buy the latest iPhone. You can download the latest app. You can watch your porn. Everything still works fine. So it seems like we're not in the gulag. That's a part of the next gulag. That's going to be the nail in the coffin is people's comfortability and convenience with technology. That's why I said it's already here. The things that should have already brought about a certain level of political participation, like a young black kid from Rondo running as a Republican because the times call for it. It's urgent. We're in a crisis. The lines are clear. The whole country should be in that uproar. And we got evangelicals that still won't vote. They say that, being politics isn't a part of Christianity. Really? Really? When the Satanists are taking over your local, your local political offices and telling your kids that they should cut their genitals off? And you think this isn't spirit? You think politics are separate than the spiritual? Or
religious freedom.
For that matter, do you think do you think the story of Christ wasn't a political story?
Well, of course it was, yeah.
Yeah, but my point is, you get the government you deserve. I'm just here to give people an option. The referendum's not on me. See, and that's what they do. This is the great trick and heresy of democracy as well. This sort of socialization of failure as a society. We're going to put it on one candidate, and if he fails, it should feel like he failed the country. That's not what elective politics is about. Elective politics is about the people. That's why the theme is the people are coming. If the people want to come, you come on along and let's change the country. If not, get ready for the gulag because you're already in it. This is your last chance to fight your way out. Other than that, they're going to close the coffin on you.
So paint the picture of what good looks like then.
Good looks like abolishing the Fed.
Yeah,
Good looks
amen
like
to that.
overhauling the DOJ, getting rid of the CIA. Good looks like pulling out of NATO. Good looks like pulling out of the World Health Organization. Good looks like cleansing and I don't say by persecution or even prosecution, but just as a matter of national security, getting rid of all of the George Soros operatives in our justice system. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of what good could look like. Good would look like making the Fed eat the $9 trillion of completely financialized collateral interest on their balance sheet to square Social Security for a little while longer. Oh, there's a lot of good we could do. The question is, how long are we going to be caught up in WWE politics, gossip politics? And that's what they're trying to go after me with.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's WWE. And we see this every election cycle, and they get the same cast of people here just ready to make these endorsements. Once again, we started this out with Joe Frazier. This is one thing about having you on the show. There's no planning here. Let's just get talk. You're good at talking. I think that's what people like about you.
It makes me dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have that. You can't be talking.
Yeah.
Right?
Julian Assange.
Mm-hmm.
God bless
I can't wrap
him.
my head around that. Like,
God
why
bless
is this
him, an
happening all of a
American
sudden?
hero, Julian Assange, freed recently. They pressured him into doing some plea agreement and admitting his guilt because that's what corrupt courts do.
Right.
God bless him, and I hope they pardon Edward Snowden left. And when you see a Mike Pence and a Rachel Maddow or Joanne Reed come together with the same consensus about Julian Assange, you know everything you need to know about what you're looking at, and Joe Frazier fits right in with that camp.
Oh, yeah.
Between Mike Pence and Rachel Maddow, Joe Frazier's nothing more than a pinball. And he'll do whatever he's told, like put he, him in his pronouns on his bio. This is what we're up against.
So what has he said about the Russian-Ukrainian war? I guess I'm not following
If
it.
we're killing Russians, I'm in.
That's what he said?
That's
pretty much
allegedly.
quote? That's allegedly. It
Allegedly.
came
Yeah.
Secondary source.
I didn't hear it from myself, but I will say that the neocon echelon of the Republican Party and conservative movement have always been lockstep with the neoliberals in their anti-Russian sentiment. And my whole issue with it is, number one, I know what it stems from. I know the history, and they don't want to talk about the history. Now, Joe Frazier can use his little, banking credentials or his resume as some astute, mealy-mouthed, political expert if he wants to. It ain't going to work here, which is why he won't debate, because he knows I know.
You've offered a debate with
three,
him.
4 times. He don't
And
want any part of
nothing-
it.
no
He knows it.
silence?
He knows I know. They all know I know.
And the
Yeah.
onus is really on him. You're endorsed by the party.
Gazelka, Qualls, Benson, Palenti, Coleman, Rudy. And Rudy I give a pass to because he's reached such an age where when Rudy gives an endorsement, who knows if he's actually given the endorsement or if somebody just told him to.
Yeah.
That's a reality when you reach 90.
Yeah.
Okay. So I give him some leeway in the deal. But none of them want to debate. Tim Palenti wouldn't stand. Where are you at? Let's talk about the fundamental, the foundations of your political worldview. Let's talk about Russia. They don't want to talk about Russia. They'd rather talk about back child support. But in actuality, they don't even really want to talk about that either because they know that's a scam too. So really what they're doing is they're running people in a circle so that they never really pin down any serious issues. The anti-Russian edifice stems back to World War II. It's that simple. The post-World War II Democrat liberal order was first anchored around organizing all of this global policy, mostly monetary policy, and then military might, to oppose Germany. But the opposition to Germany really isn't as it's told in American history. And that's one of the first psyops we got running, is that our entire geopolitical structure is based on a narrative that's only halfway told, which tells you something about the narratives that would come afterward. Who taught the Nazis to think the way that they did about racial superiority? They didn't come across that worldview on their own. They were taught.
Taught by who?
The British. The British intellectuals were the progenitors of social Darwinism. Darwinism is at the heart of racial identity, superiority worldview. This was a British intellectual deal. And the Nazis got a little bit big for the britches, which is why eventually they went on to attack the British, even though they were closely aligned in their academia and their academic worldview. But when we and for that matter, who was in lockstep with the British? Who was the next group? We were. Which is why when World War II was over, we had no problem assimilating or absorbing, Nazi war criminals
As scientists in our
as
programs,
scientists
yeah.
and military. We had no problem with it. Why?
So where does Russia come into this? So
Well,
you said-
Russia took their own group of Nazis after Paperclip. They
Yeah, I
had
know,
their
but
own.
you said this explains the reason that there's
Oh.
this hatred for Russia.
Okay, after the Nazis fell, we turned our attention to the Russians,
Right.
right? Because
Yeah.
of the communist threat.
East versus the West.
Okay,
no doubt.
okay. And what we did was we empowered all of these countries on the Eastern European front to run spy for us in Russia. And that hasn't stopped since.
I mean, it seemed
But
like,
it is a
seemed like it took
Nazi
a break.
operation.
Yeah, it seemed like it took a break in the early parts of the new millennia because we were focused on the Middle East so much. But I guess in many regards, NATO kept inching its way towards Russia.
Right, silently.
So, well,
Not so silent.
not so silent.
Not so silent if you're Russian.
Right.
Yeah, not so silent if you're Russian, and every 100 years some jerk-off thinks that they can conquer Russia. And that is the history of Russia.
You know, the left-wing media, lying left-wing media is going to be like, he's pro-Putin. He's pro-Putin. How dare he say that? It's NATO's fault.
Of course, because we don't. First of all, I don't like Vladimir Putin. I'm not a. I
He's
don't.
a thug. Yeah, he's a terrible
I
person.
don't. Well, I don't know. I don't know him, and
Yeah.
it's hard for
well,
me.
I think we could deduce enough about him that
But
we
no,
know.
let's just keep the conversation within the constraints of what we know.
Yeah.
I cannot parse what is fact and what is fiction from the what I see when I look at Russia and what the propaganda is. I don't know. I don't know what's true and what's not. All I can say is what I hear from his mouth, but then even that is only half-baked because he's a spy and he's a politician.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know what to believe. I don't care. What I care about are more fundamental things that we can deduce as American citizens. We don't want to go to a nuclear war with Russia. That'd be bad for all of us.
Right.
If we can avoid a nuclear war, we should. If we can avoid a 20-year war with Russia, we should. What I hear Vladimir Putin say when he sits down with Tucker Carlson is, we would have loved to just been accepted by the West. We wanted to become a part of NATO. We wanted to be in. We wanted to do joint defense, air defense systems and all these other things. Is he telling the truth? Maybe, maybe not. But the question is now not even about the history. The history is the history. The Atlanticist political worldview is anti-Russian, period. It's European-centric, and it believes Russia as being outside of the fold of European, okay? They're an enemy. The British, headed by the British Empire, and after what I meant by the World War II as a marker in time is that when Roosevelt did a deal with Winston Churchill to give aid to defeat the Axis powers, the agreement was that the British would relinquish their colonial empire and that America's exceptionalism and military might would take it over. And the British fooled us because we were a young nation, young and had just come into prominence. The British fooled us into thinking that we were running the game because our name was on the thing. That the new empire around the world was based on the American dollar and American industrialization and ingenuity and military might. We got to put our name on it. But the British sent all their intellectuals into our universities. And that's why many of your permanent political class, political elites still identify as Atlanticists. And it's why they identify as European. And it's why European safety is seen as high up on the trough as American safety. And my point in all of that is the British have been fighting a war with the Russians since the 1700s. And well before that. It's called the Great Game. People can look it up. This isn't an opinion. This isn't a conspiracy theory. The Great Game is the long-standing geopolitical rivalry and conflict between the British Empire and the Russian Empire. And what do we have to do with it? We fought a war to defect from the crown. We fought a war to be American, not British. So this whole idea of the Commonwealth and we're bonded by common language and common ideas and values and we used to be European or we have European heritage, and that is exactly why we're on the brink of losing our country, losing our rights, losing our economy, and losing a bunch of young people on a Russian battlefield that we have no business on.
So the policy doesn't make any sense to me. Why whatever the policy's objectives and aims are, the best I can tell from the Biden administration is we're just going to try to starve the beast to Russia by killing tons of Ukrainians, right? Because they just want to keep the war prolonged. So the policy doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. What I don't know, it seems like you have the answers for it. I'm not certain I buy this, but it's coming out of Great Britain. They're the masterminds behind it.
Oh, for sure. We're carrying water for the crown. We've been doing.
See, I don't buy that. You know what I think?
What do you think? It's Israel?
I think it's global elites.
Well, but
That's what I think it is. I don't think it
deal.
has to do with.
But wait. No, this isn't an opinion. This is a fact. The entire globalism idea. First of all, globalism is a post-World War II phenomenon. The fractional reserve and Federal Reserve system goes back to the 1900s, and it goes back to early post-Enlightenment Europe. Okay, we know that with the Rothschilds. That's not a dog whistle of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, but we've tried centralized economic planning since the founding of this country.
But
I mean, Jefferson killed the second national bank,
our
first national bank.
The culmination, let's say the coronation of modern day globalism is the construction of the United Nations post-World War II. What I'm saying to you is that format of globalism was headed up by British intellectuals. The sun never sets on the British Empire. Mm-hmm. They were the last empire before we went to a global empire headed up by or protected by American military might. So the last people who were in charge, politically, socially, economically, were the British. And what I'm saying is, when you say global elites, absolutely, but there is a hierarchy of elites amongst the elites. Mm-hmm. And so the question, and this always becomes the question.
And you think the English crown is the top of that?
Brad agrees with him. He says Royce is correct. The British elites have a disdain for America.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying.
It's so long-standing, and you look at Rishi Sunak, and obviously Nigel Farage is bringing the fight of, the anti-globalism fight in Britain that should be fought. Mm-hmm. But Rishi Sunak and, just about every single one of those British politicians, they're in lockstep with this Ukrainian thing. And, it's Farage that's the only one that says that, this was caused by the NATO expansion. If you try to say anything about the NATO expansion, they say that you're playing into Putin's hands.
Okay, wait a second. Again, I want to bring us back to the historical fact. I'm not just saying the British elites for no reason. All of these very highly educated political experts, consultants, thought leaders, they all come from a school of thought about the world island theory. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is the real fight that's going on in Ukraine. This stems back to the early 1900s. This was an intellectual idea that was created out of the academic community in Great Britain. Halford John Mackinder is the one who created the Mackinder world island theory. It was 1907. The theory claimed that he who controls Eastern Europe controls the heartland. He who controls the heartland controls the Afro-Eurasian world island. The theory is that as technology and military advanced, where you could walk to would become ever more important, because as people started to develop air travel and naval travel, the linchpin of security for the British, okay, he made the theory for the British, would be the heartland. Mm-hmm. Okay, there were three alliances that he cited would be dangerous to the stability of controlling the world island. Now, when we say the world island, that's globalism, okay? And we here in America are on a totally different hemisphere, but we are always over there protecting that world island theory, which is more evidence that we're working for the crown, because this was their theory. Didn't come from anywhere else. It was strictly out of British academia. And they cite it now. Mm-hmm. So it's not an opinion. Rachel Maddow and these people, if you listen close enough and you know what you're listening for, they're citing it all the time. We can't let, okay, Mackinder said there are three alliances that threaten the stability of British power on the Eurasian world island. A German-Russo alliance, mm-hmm. A Sino-Russo alliance, okay, and a Russian alliance with with other Eastern European countries. Now, let's say Russia overthrew Germany completely, right? If Russia was to overthrow Germany and become the dominant force in Eastern Europe, then these would destabilize the world island, okay? Nazi Germany. Then it was the Japanese, China. And now it is Russia, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a line here, and all of it is we have to control this area. We have to control this area to stabilize the world island theory. This is Halford John Mackinder, and he was a Brit. He was sponsored, subsidized by the British government, by the Crown, to come up with this theory, and we all live by it.
I feel like what you're maybe saying is Great Britain pulling the strings, or the English Crown pulling the strings, is
Yes.
really, but I'm not buying this. I think it's
Okay.
more just English influence. In that, you talk about the intellectuals, the politicians, an empire that lasted so long. I just feel like it's not so concentrated just there. There's no doubt about what you're saying. We have protected Great Britain since World War II, no doubt about it. But it seems like we have just as many sinister forces here in our own soil.
Oh, no doubt.
That are also making these
but wait,
calls.
wait. No doubt we have. No, you're not getting what I'm saying. These people identify as being British.
You think so?
Yeah. Look at them.
I
mean,
do.
what-
I look at them all the
what-
time.
but
I'm
see,
waiting for them to become lizards and go under earth.
The question is, when you talk about how people identify and who they truly are, the separation becomes what people have fealty to. And so the fealty is to this Atlanticist identity. And so they're not American. They're British. They're European. They're cosmopolitan, global citizens.
Well, they certainly like Europe a lot more than the United States. They're trying to make us more like Europe.
Yes.
But I see, really outwardly more loyalties and actually dual citizenship to Israel than any other country.
Oh, well, Israel's and I had people come up to me at the convention nonstop and say that you're anti-Semitic because I said that Israel is the linchpin to New World Order. And it is.
Well, yeah, Times of Israel has attacked you too. I mean,
Yeah, of course they do.
You've been getting, and I think you're right on with what you were saying before, that these people prefer the attacks than the issues, because they'll attack you on these issues,
Right.
but they don't want you to explain it. They don't want you to be able to have
Right.
the explanation because if the explanation's there, you're bringing people along with you. You convince people along the way.
Because I'm going off historical fact. It is a fact that the first great act of the United Nations, which is the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, crown jewel, the United Nations, the first substantial act was Israel. And it's not to say that the Holocaust wasn't a great tragedy. Of course it was. And what happened in Nazi Germany was a great human tragedy of human history. The question is, how is tragedy used? The same with slavery.
Right, and that effort was led by the British.
Again,
Right.
who constituted Israel?
The British.
Who sent the Jews down? And I love when Gaddafi said, and this tells you how, Preya, this girl named Preya, she's a worker for the Joe Frazier campaign. I think she might be a campaign manager, something like that. Maybe she's doing comms. I don't know. But the New York Post wrote an article that said that I posted a video of Muammar Gaddafi equating the Taliban to the Vatican. And I said, I'm Catholic. I mean, what are you talking about? But the point is, what Muammar Gaddafi was really saying in the clip is, why are we fighting the Taliban? This was after 9/11. This was 2009, but it was in that.
It's a valid question.
No, I mean, and that's not a statement about the Taliban morally or
Right, they're terrible
religiously.
people, but
They're
what
terrible
the hell
people.
were we doing?
But what were we doing there?
Right.
Okay, and why were they our target when Osama bin Laden wasn't of the Taliban?
Right.
These are questions you're not even allowed to
Dude,
ask.
it's so insane. And even when I was still like the latter part of my time in the military, I was like, what the heck? We did nothing in the military without a mission. I go, what the hell's the mission in Afghanistan?
Right.
Because we went in there to root out Al-Qaeda, and all of a sudden we're fighting the
Taliban, right.
and trying to install a new country, a pro-democratic country, which, by the way, failed tremendously by every measure.
Grand failure. But wait, let me tie this together for everybody real quick. Muammar Gaddafi asked, why are we fighting the Taliban? And he says, if the Taliban want to have a religious emirate, They have that right. If they want to have a religious state, they have that right. Look at the Vatican. Are we an enemy to the Vatican? The Vatican is a peaceful religious state. He said that the Vatican is peaceful and religious, and he was affirming the right for a country to have a religious emirate or state. And he was using that to try and make a point about us being, and obviously us having a hard on for the Taliban, but really he was dog whistling that we were involved in Afghanistan and the Taliban for a different reason.
Yeah.
And that you could look at the history of the situation and tell that it's not everything it was being portrayed as.
Anyone that opens their mind could tell that.
Well,
right?
I mean, well,
But
let's
it's funny that
look
we
at
have
this.
to listen to Gaddafi.
Let's
that-
look at the conservative movement continuing to hold Ronald Reagan up as a saint, when the first thing you can do is go back and find the Mujahideen that became the Taliban right there in the Oval Office. And you can go back and look at the history and see that we partnered with the Mujahideen for our own military interests in the region, and they would then become the Taliban. The same way with Saddam, who we funded
against Iran
and subsidized,
Yep.
went to Kuwait, and then he became the problem. The same thing with Muammar Gaddafi.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, the same thing. Pick one. So this is our history there in the Middle East. And my point in saying
It's
that,
almost like playing these war games doesn't work out for us in the end, right?
the reason I'm saying that in conjunction with Israel, my stance on Israel has always been that we don't need to be on all sides of the trade, the war. Don't tell me it's a holy war. It may be a holy war for some people. It may be a holy war for some evangelical Christians in this country. That doesn't mean it's a holy war for the military-industrial complex.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's a holy war for the establishment or for the Norm Colemans. Don't let Norm Coleman tell you his affiliation or his fealty to the Jewish lobby is based on faith and scripture. And how dare you use evangelical Christians' love of Israel from a scriptural on a scriptural basis to promulgate some military racket. It's offensive to Christians, and it should be offensive to American citizens. But there are all these narratives that you can't even ask questions about, or the Times of Israel will say you're anti-Semitic, but I'm just not afraid of that.
Yeah.
And we can't be afraid of that, because either we're going to stand up and tell the truth and talk about things as they are, or we're going to die living in a lie.
Well, like we've said on this show many times, that we love Jewish people, love the people on the ground. The average guy is just trying
course.
to make for his family,
Yeah.
just like you and me. The difference here is the sins of the leaders of these country. And by the way, Israel's leader has many sins these days, and the people know that over there. He's not very well liked. They're not the sins of the people. Same thing with Hamas. And we can't attribute the sins of Hamas on a 6-year-old child in the Gaza, which you've just literally ripped apart their lives if you didn't kill them already, which we don't even know what that body count is. So to me, it seems like this is just
Well, and these are not easy questions, because on the flip side of that coin, in my neighborhood, I grew up on Dale and Iglehart in St. Paul.
okay.
In my neighborhood, let's say you were a part of a gang, or let's say you were just a random citizen, and you come and you stand on the end of my block and you yell death to everybody who lives on Dale and Iglehart. The first time I may say, oh, that person's just crazy, he'll go away. The second time, I'm going to come out and look and see who else is reacting to what this person is doing. The third time, I'm going to go and deal with it myself. And that's just the rules and the laws of human interaction. You yell death to America, eventually we have to believe that you mean death to America. And Hamas and the Iranians and other people in the extremist Muslim cohort don't do well to differentiate Israel from America. And in that way, they are either playing right into the hands of whatever interest exists, or people in this country are subsidizing them posing as the threat to both Israel and America, so they can perpetuate the war. And it just so happens when you go follow the money, that is exactly what we're doing. We are giving money to all the surrounding countries that we use to justify being a perpetual threat to the overall safety of Israel and the Jewish people. That's being on every side of the trade. We give money to the Emiratis. We give money to the Egyptians. We give money to the Jordanians. We give money to the Iranians. We give money to the whatever failed state you say is there in Iraq. I mean, we still have people there. in many ways, right? I mean, those are our people, the people we trained to become the Iraqi government that are still in the shattered pieces of whatever's left of Iraq that's now controlled by Iran, really, and the terrorists.
Depends on the region.
Depends on the region, but overall, they're no help to anybody. So my point is, we're on every side of the trade, but then we're going to say we're in some holy war with Israel, and you evangelicals are going to believe that? You evangelical Christians in this country are going to believe that we're sending money to that whole region to protect Israel because based on scripture, you deserve a gulag and you're going to get one. And what's funny about it is the evangelicals that have this, and I'm not getting down on Christians because I think Christianity can save this country. But what I am getting down on is how easily certain groups of people are fooled by the narrative. If the evangelical Christian community is so knee-jerk, so shallow in their understanding of geopolitics that they're willing to continue to give their vote and tax money to anybody who gets up there and says we support Israel, like Tom Emmer did it at the convention. Stood right up there, and the first thing he does to try and draw roars from the crowd is we will never tolerate anti-Semitism in this party. But you will raise the debt ceiling so that the military-industrial complex can siphon off American tax money and send it to Iranians. Mm-hmm. You think we're stupid?
I think they do. They do think.
No,
we're
they
stupid.
do, but they know I'm not stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some other people may be stupid in this country, but I'm not.
What's the party's reaction to you? I mean, I accuse MNGP basically being run by Emmer these days.
I can't confirm that. I'll say this:
speculation, right?
Emmer is Tom Emmer. You can look at his voting record and make of it what you will. Is DC politics much more complicated than any one of us could possibly imagine? I couldn't begin to think of what happens when you get there, and you have to deal with the power that's at work and the deals and the different things that are going on. So I even look. Every nationalist we say in my camp is a reform globalist, because most of them all voted for George Bush, and they wouldn't today. So there's a movement. There is movement in politics, which there always is. And as a Christian, I never preclude a miracle, and I always leave open the possibility for people to change. So I'm not going to condemn Tom Emmer as this evil guy who has no chance of changing my mind. I am going to watch him. I'm going to be tuned and looking exactly at what he does and how he votes. But I can't make broad claims about him as a person. What I will say is he has not come out against me yet in this race. Now, that may be for his own political reasons, or I'm not sure. He's in charge of the Trump campaign. I don't necessarily know what to make of that. I mean, so there's so much going on, but I'm not even concerned about that. I tell people, and you've heard me, the people who are involved in the party, the people who are involved in the establishment, some of them will have their eyes, opened even in this short process of this election cycle, and they'll make a migration. Some people will be on our side and decide they want to go back towards the status quo. This is a moving, living thing, and what I will say is this: these people picked the right one. We can go to war. Because it's not about me. They think it's about me. They're hard on us for me. They have a problem with me. But what I'm representing has very little to do with me. It has nothing to do with me almost, except that I can articulate the issues because I know them. But the energy has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. This is people who have become Republican activists, who have been run through a charnel house, an energy drain that seems intentionally constructed by a Republican establishment all across the country. Tom Emmer has to live with that because he was at the helm, not me. So he has to worry about CD6 in 2 years, not me. And that goes for Fishbach too.
Go ahead.
We have a Rumble rant from Razzle Dazzles, who's actually been pretty persistent earlier on. He says, when are we going to talk about Royce's campaign, Preaching to the Choir?
Preaching to the choir. This is some new stuff here.
Yeah, we've had other comments in there. Just
All
to
right,
be
let me,
fair, people are enjoying this and saying Royce is very knowledgeable.
Yeah, why do you got to ruin the
He's learning a
show,
lot.
Razzle Dazzle? No, it's a good time for me to actually remember I have sponsors because we had such a weird start. So thanks to Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty for sponsoring this show. If you're buying or selling a home, use Warren Wessel, our good friend Warren Wessel. Do we have a little pop-up here, Dustin? Sorry, I didn't plan this here. I'm so late on my sponsorship. I could read the number here. It's 612-419-745. There it is on the screen. Give Warren a call. If you're buying a home, you can use their good friends at John Galt Mortgage Company. These guys actually believe the things that you and I believe in. That's why they like to sponsor the show. So you can go to johngaltmortgage.com if you're buying a home. They are recently licensed now in, I think it's Tennessee and North Carolina. It just popped up last week. Also, we're brought to you by Yes Solutions. For all your shipping needs, whether it is just one shipment of a pallet or multiple truckloads, you can call Yes Solutions. Carla, it's run by the Patriot Caller Nelson. She says, give Kyle a call. Don't give her a call. I don't know why. Give Kyle a call. Kyle must be answering the phones. 651-797-2451. That's Yes Solutions, 651-797-2451. Also brought to you by Alpine Cabinetry in St. Cloud. Let's talk about your campaign.
Yeah.
I was asking about your support from the party. You got
Yeah.
the endorsement, 67%. Is the party, at this point, from your perspective, supporting your campaign, or are they behind the scenes really trying to sink you?
No, I think they're being helpful.
Okay.
But I can only see what I can see with my eyes. And I only know what I've heard with my ears. And I can't say that somebody's not doing something behind the scenes that's ill-intended. But what I can say is from all of the discussions that I've had with Han and Anna Matthews, they're supportive. You know, they believe that I can do some damage.
Yeah.
You know, and they've given us everything that we've asked for so far. You know, do things come on exactly at the time you want them? But that's anything. You know, you could call me on you could call me on a Monday and ask me for something. I may say it's going to be Tuesday. It might end up being Wednesday. It happens. People have other things going on. My point is, I want to be a unifying voice, but behind the right ideas.
Yes. Right.
And I think what I offer to this election cycle is the very unique chance to disrupt the most potent political narrative that's holding this entire globalist agenda together, and that is race.
Yeah.
The white-black narrative is what is holding the entire agenda together. 1,000%.
Explain that a little bit more. I'm not.
For example, let's look at the Senate majority. Where was it lost?
You saying U.S. Senate or
U.S. Senate.
Georgia.
Where was it lost in Georgia?
Black votes.
In the greater Atlanta area. By how many votes? It's about 30,000.
Right, yeah, 30.
30,000. And so whether or not black people are a majority in this country or not, the margin that they represent in deciding the outcome of elections has been and will continue to be used. And what I say about this party in my campaign is, I think there are Republicans who believe in elections as more of a material matter and not a spiritual matter that think along the lines of changing the votes in CD5 and CD4. And there is value to that. The question is, how do we change them? What is the pitch? And we have to get right about the pitch. Now, people will have disagreements about the pitch, but they'll agree on the desired outcome. I think all Republicans in Minnesota would like to see the inner city and the black communities vote Republican. Now, I think there is some outer rim of both political parties that do still harbor genuine racism. That's what it is. I mean, there is genuine racism out there.
Yeah.
We see it. It's stupid. It gets caricatured as all white people, which is retarded.
all MAGA people?
Well,
right?
they say every Trump supporter is I saw
Ridiculous.
somebody say every Trump supporter is a racist.
Yeah, I've heard that. I'm like,
That
really?
white supremacy is a tool that anybody can access,
Yeah.
even black people.
Wow.
Okay, so obviously,
Have you been called racist
course.
against black people
of
yet?
course.
Yeah, right.
yeah. So obviously they're still using racism.
Self-loathing Jews.
Yes.
Have you heard that one? That
yes,
one's a good
but
one.
but my point is, we're at this unique place in our party's history where we're making a decision now about the way forward. Is there any value to trying to change the black vote? Well, Donald Trump shows us that
Yeah,
there is.
Well, how do you explain that? Why is he? What is the recent numbers here, Jesse? You consume the stuff on a daily basis. He's like tripled the amount of support already
Yeah,
in
they
the
say
black
21%,
community.
23%.
What's going on? Why do you see that change?
We're not stupid. We're not stupid.
Well, 79% of you are.
Well, no. Well, no. They're not stupid.
By the way, total joke, right?
You can tell jokes when you're amongst comrades.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not that thin-skinned. But my point is, that 79% is not stupid. They're making a calculation based on a radical material society.
Well, and there could be lots of reasons for 79%, but what
I'm gonna
explains
tell
the
you.
21%?
No, let me tell you.
Okay.
No. 79% is important.
Yeah.
We as conservatives need to understand what the 79% number is telling us. Black people are not stupid. Local crack dealers are not stupid. Freeway Ricky Ross ran a nationwide criminal drug empire. You cannot be stupid and accomplish that.
Well, clearly he was smart.
Smart.
Yeah.
A lot of these people are smart. Whether they can read at a 5th grade level or not, they're smart. Whether they graduate high school or not, they're smart. We live in a radical material society run by a uniparty. And what they're saying is, in the black community, who's going to give us the most? Who's going to give us the biggest cut of the pie? And what the Democrats have been smart in doing is promising that 79% of black voters the biggest piece of the money they steal from everybody. And it comes through social programs. Now, black people are finally waking up to the fact that after 3 generations, going back to the Civil Rights Act, right?
Yep.
3 20-year generations, 60 years, they're finally waking up to the fact that the promise, A, can't continue to be kept if we go bankrupt. They can see it by the inflation that they pay for every day at the point of purchase. But even more so that there's something deeply dishonest about somebody giving you just enough to stay poor forever. So the ambitions, the subconscious ambitions of people who live in a radical material society is to naturally think that they deserve more. And now black people have this vision of what a posh, liberal, cosmopolitan, global lifestyle looks like, where you hop on a private jet and you either go to the Met Gala on your way to the international summit there in Davos, Switzerland, and you get pretty couture $100,000 dresses like AOC, and you live in I don't know.
How do you even know this stuff?
You you live in what's the neighborhood there in Brooklyn? You live in a Dumbo. You got a beautiful overpriced
Why are you looking
apartment.
at Meg and Jesse like he knows anything about Brooklyn?
Because I'm sure he's following
I
everything
follow
AOC
Paul.
does.
that's true.
Yeah.
There you go.
So you live in posh Dumbo and in some super expensive apartment, and you live this celebrity lifestyle. But all your black constituents are going, well, where's ours?
Yeah.
And so now they're getting to the point where they're saying, there's no way we're going to have prosperity, economic prosperity, under this regime and under this Democrat Party's platform. And see what's stupid, what's crazy about it is they actually, the greatest sign of racism is that the Democrats really believe they can continue to pitch their BS. And black people are so dumb, they'll vote Democrat anyway. That's the greatest sign of racism in modern society, that we can give you black folks crumbs, send the big pieces of the pie to the Ukraine or to Iran, for that matter. We're going to send the big pieces of the pie over there, and you still don't have water in Flint, Michigan. And they think black people are too stupid to wake up to that.
Right. And I think black voters know, too, that it's the lesser evil argument. I think most black voters don't love the Democrat Party. I think they see them as evil as well. I think they see all
sure.
the problems with it. And the problem is the GOP doesn't talk to black voters ever. You're going to change that.
If
but-
I can get past the GOP.
Yep, absolutely.
And I'm not saying the state party, but I'm saying the Gazelkas.
The
and
establishment.
Right, exactly.
And
But
sometimes we say establishment like it's one body, but it's not.
No.
And also to your point too, like you look at what AOC and Jamal Bowman had. They had that little rally, and Bernie Sanders was there too, and all that. Nobody was there. Their constituents have left them because, like you're saying, they're being seen that there's this celebrity lifestyle for the chosen select elites, but nothing for the people. And I think people are starting to see through it, and people, and black voters are starting to see that the answer is freedom. It's not the government, because they already
can you
don't trust the government. Right.
It blows my mind. And this is why I always go back to the George Floyd thing being such a pivotal moment in my intellectual and political development. The fact that the theme was the whole system is guilty, and then watch when the Democrats get in power, all of these people affirm, shill, justify The courts, for example. I mean, just 7 years ago, we were saying that no young black man can be trusted in the hands of the American judicial system. And as soon as it's Donald Trump, all of a sudden the courtroom is clarified. I mean, but black people get it.
Yeah.
Black people get that. Not the talking heads from BLM. They're not going to say it, but your average black person, they're sitting there going, "Oh, really? Oh, now you're going to tell me that the courts are fair and equal?"
Yeah.
No, I still got a brother that's sitting in jail for 20 years on a trumped up RICO indictment, where whether he was guilty or not, the evidence didn't support the verdict. The evidence didn't support the charge.
Yeah.
The evidence didn't support the judicial process that took place, which is why Amy Klobuchar is running for her life right now, because she knows, the DNC knows, Joe Biden, 1994 crime bill Joe Biden, they all know the most dangerous territory, the most dangerous ground they have to traverse in this election cycle is the role all of them played in crushing the black community from a legal standpoint in the court.
If you have the smallest amount of crack, 5 years minimum, right? That's pretty much Joe Biden's words on the Senate floor.
Yes.
Right there.
Yes.
By the way, I don't think his son's going to be doing 5 years. I don't think his son might even see jail.
Amy Klobuchar,
Amy Klobuchar threw a lot of people.
Hennepin County,
Yep.
Yeah.
lead county attorney.
Yep.
Oh, she is doing everything she can to avoid that conversation. But black people know. See, they're already messaging me. Don't forget to mention. Don't forget, I was driving across 94 yesterday over there in off Lexington in 94. That's my old neighborhood. I'm a Midway, Rondo, St. Paul kid. And on the overpass, there was a sign. There was a man with two signs, and one said Klobuchar supports genocide, Joe Biden supports genocide.
Wow.
Only signs up there, just about the genocide. Now, obviously, they're talking about Palestine,
Yeah.
right? I mean, obviously, they're talking about Gaza. But that's not the only genocide they're a part of. They're a part of a military-industrial complex view of humanity and American citizens that's caused genocide from Gaza all the way to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And Amy Klobuchar has no problem throwing young black men in jail for the slightest of crimes for her own political expedience. She is running for her life. And the GOP establishment, like Gazelka and Qualls and Norm, the last thing they want, them specifically, the last thing they want is for Amy Klobuchar to have to face off against me in a debate.
No,
Yeah.
it just seems so. This is what gets me. It's like, you guys have this milquetoast Republican, and you're just like checking the box. I was almost thinking he wasn't going to primary because, like, what's the point? You're not going to win. You're not believing anything. If there's any chance to throw out Amy Klobuchar, you got to go with the risk. You got to go with someone that brings interest to the campaign.
Yeah.
And no, I guess I don't know. They maybe they need the money for their campaign consultancy class to
No,
keep
they
the
like
jobs
it
going.
this
I don't
way.
know what it is.
No, they like it this way. We don't have to speculate. They like it like this. I love when Carl Jung, and Carl Jung may have very well been a Satanist. So I quote him with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But when people say things that are true, they're true.
Yeah.
And he said that you can look at the results and you can go back and infer the motive. Profound statement. You can look at the results and you can go back and infer the motive. And what I'm saying is, whether these people are doing it consciously or subconsciously, what they're doing is preserving the status quo. The status quo is a uniparty of two major political groups who pose as opposition,
Right.
but preserve the money,
Right.
the scam.
Correct. Yes, 100%.
The Democrats get the $2 trillion a year for social programs and Medicaid, and the conservatives get the $2 trillion a year for military-industrial
I'm
complex.
beginning to think there's not a difference in those two things, though. You know,
That
I think
$4
the
trillion
Democrats are almost
every
advocating
year.
for that one as much as the Republicans.
Every year, that $4 trillion is going to come down the chute, and every
Well, I
year,
don't even know what
2,000
I don't even
people
know
are going to
what $4
split it.
trillion is. It's $6 trillion. We're $2
Yes.
trillion over what we're
That's right.
consuming.
Plus
So,
the black budget.
Yeah. Well, who knows what that is,
There
right?
you go. It's a lot of money for 2,000 bureaucrats.
Yeah. Let's finish this off. I know so it's interesting. You get on the campaign. We're led to believe there's a lot of controversy in your past.
Yes,
So you may have said cunt before on Twitter.
proudly.
Yeah.
Barack Obama is a cunt.
Yeah.
It's not a sexist statement. It's not a gender specific
You're
statement.
supposed to be sexist here. You got to play the role, Royce.
Okay,
Come
if
on.
I
That's
called
what
him
they
a
want
dick,
you
would
to
it be
be.
acceptable?
Yeah.
If I called Barack Obama, if I said he was a dick, it'd be acceptable?
You'd still get the hate for it, but it's true.
I mean, who cares? If
Yep.
if people boil their politics down to that, you deserve the gulag, and it's on the way. So buckle up.
By the way,
Yup.
you are very active on Twitter. It's interesting, and a lot of debates challenged out there, and I don't think any accepted. So
0.
Child payments. What's the story behind this?
Well,
I've
this
seen
is a
that
good one. Let's talk about this. And first, I want to say, it's an indictment of people who even use the family court as a cudgel against a man's character, because again, they're affirming the legitimacy of the American court system and the American family court system, which in any other context, Kendall Qualls, for example, would openly talk about how American policy was used to railroad the black nuclear family through an institution like the family court. But because I owe back child support and I'm on the other side of the rhino establishment, it's perfectly legitimate. This is the type of shoddy politics that should come to offend the American people. Start with that. Joe Frazier the same. He willingly uses the ruling, the outcome from the family court, to justify his opinions about me as fact. Something he would probably do with respect to Donald Trump as well. And in fact, when you dig deep enough, his comms person, Preya, she was caucusing for Nikki Haley. So you can imagine what they were saying about Trump then.
Yeah,
Right.
that's not good.
Okay, rest. Let me tell you the story about how the American family court system really works. My first child I had on a one-night stand when I was in college, partying, #1 player in the country, #1 player in the state, all the hype around me, on campus. Had never lived alone. Well, I lived alone. I lived in the streets a little bit my own, but never with as much popularity and sort of social capital, let's say. And made mistakes as a young man, 18-year-old man. Shouldn't have been doing that. Obviously, having a child out of wedlock isn't ideal, although I will take the children out of wedlock versus the ecto farms and the anti-human culture that's brewing up there in Davos and this transhuman thing. Give me all the kids out of wedlock first. Give me all the bastard children first. For you 501c3 Christians, I'll continue. So
You are an interesting
sorry.
person. No,
No, you're on fire.
but so I had a child. I didn't know the child was mine until she was almost 2 years old. So the mother believed that she was someone else's child. That person asked for a paternity test. She wasn't his child. So then the mom went back to think about who was a child and had another set of paternity tests. I was one of one of 3 total guys who took that next round of paternity tests. Now, when I saw the girl, my oldest daughter, right away I knew she was mine. She looked just like me. But I had never even seen her. So we still had to go through the process of the paternity test to adjudicate me as the father. I'm in the NBA now. So when this whole paternity test thing goes through, I've just now been drafted and I have a standard yearly salary.
You're like high pick too. Eight
I was 16, but
16?
the set salary at that time was 1.1 million. So you can imagine after taxes, the big Uncle
Well,
Sam.
it's Texas, so
Doesn't matter for federal. Still,
Yeah, fair.
you're still
Yeah,
going
that's
to pay
true.
45% taxes. So after the taxes, you can imagine, 1.1 million looks good on paper, but it's not what it seems. And then I fought the NBA on mental health policy, and they fined me another $500,000. Point being, once I finally started getting paid by the NBA, my checks were getting garnished automatically. The family court sent a court order to my employer, which was easy to Google, and say, we have a court order for child support. This man's been adjudicated the father. He owes not only back child support, but we have an ongoing support order of this amount. That amount was the maximum amount. And in the state of Minnesota, you take 10% of your monthly income, and that's what they use to formulate the support calculation. So it's about $2,500 a month. But for me, it's $2,500 every 2 weeks. So it ended up being around $5,000 a month, taken automatically, okay? Right out of my check, you see it, you go to your stub, $2,500 Minnesota support, okay? Nobody told me when I stopped getting NBA checks that they weren't going to modify the support. It's on the father. It's on the working class man to go back into the court and file a motion with an attorney that you then have to pay for to modify your support. I didn't even know that. At 21 years old, I had no clue.
that makes sense.
In my mind, it was you were taking the money automatically when I had it. When I don't have it, you probably will be able to just simply call the employer and say, hey, is he still getting checks? No, he's not. Okay, well, obviously we're not going to be getting money anymore. Let's reduce it back to something that's reasonable. But that's not what the intention of the American family court system is. That's not their goal. So what happened was, after about 9 months of me not being employed by the NBA and racking up $5,000 a month, I'm sitting at $50,000 in arrears. Okay? Now the interest is so high that if you pay the monthly order, the interest is still accruing another month's worth of arrearages. And so this went on until I was able to actually move back to Minnesota, get a family court attorney that would go in and argue for modification. And guess what they told me was their reasoning why they didn't. Because now, mind you, when I wasn't paying the support, they brought everybody back into court. I wasn't there. I was living in another state. But they brought everybody back in court, and they ruled that the court order should stay the same, even though I wasn't playing in the NBA, because I had the potential to make that much money every month.
Yikes.
A family court referee made the decision that because I was drafted to the NBA, I have the potential to walk into an NBA team and make that same amount. This is what the American family court system really thinks about the working class in this country. That they can set some superficial and arbitrary standard about how much money you make, and then make a claim about how much you care about your family or your children based on your inability to meet that standard. They continued on with the support until I was able to hire an attorney to go back in and modify it based on no longer having the potential to make that money. And that's how I'm $100,000 behind in support. It all stems back to the first 2 or 3 years of this child support case. Over the last 2 to 3 years, I overpaid my child support. And I'm going to release those documents here in the next week or so, where it says right in the review hearing that I'm $8,000 over the obligation for the year.
Wow.
But it still doesn't put a dent in the $100,000 because of the interest. And so when the interest rates are raised by the Fed, okay, it's not really the Fed, but the interest rates are,
They dictate the market.
Okay.
Yeah, overwhelmingly.
There's no way to once you get that deep in, there's no way to make it up. You think they didn't know that when they made the decision in the beginning?
Yeah.
Better question is, do you think Joe Frazier doesn't know that? A better question is, if a mother was fired from her job, or she could no longer, or evicted from her home, would we use that to make a statement about how much she cares about her children? Would we say a mother who can no longer provide food or shelter for her children must not love them?
No.
We only say it about men. And that's the real underlying edifice of the American anti-family court system, is that it's tilted in the direction of women intentionally to handicap men and to create a divide between men and women and their children. Intentionally.
Are you able to be a part of your daughter's life?
Oh, yeah, I have joint custody.
Good.
Yeah, joint physical and legal custody.
I mean, that's the important thing, right?
Well,
it's not
yes,
really what
but I mean, again, to enforce certain things, I'd have to drag the mother back into court and have a fight.
Well, are you amicable with her, though? I mean,
with the mother?
Well, how old is the daughter at this point?
My daughter's 14 years old.
Yeah, I
She
mean,
just
those are
turned 14.
critical. That's a critical age.
Well,
You have
and
a-
listen, again,
that's all I care about, Royce, to be honest with you. I think the family, I don't know much about the family court system, luckily, because I didn't have a kid out of wedlock, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's crazy because knowing I was an NBA recruit. I know this is a big shocker to the folks out there.
Well, but it's not even.
I love
about,
playing basketball.
It's not
but
about
they
wedlock.
weren't
It's
calling
not
me.
even. It's not even about wedlock or not. I mean, let's
Yeah.
be honest about the statistics.
Well, yeah, divorce too.
There you go.
100%, yes.
70% of marriages end in divorce.
And it's the
And
tragedy
they have
when it's with
remarry
kids.
and other kids in the new.
And to me, from my
Marriage.
Christian and just good ethical foundation, is the most important thing is fostering a good environment for that child. Changes the whole game.
Right, but again, let me reiterate this. If a mother loses her employment in this country and can no longer provide food and shelter for her child, nobody uses that to make a claim that she doesn't care about the child, that she doesn't love her children. This is something that we cast on the men specifically.
Yeah.
And this is what the Fraser camp, and look at the alignment of these people. And my point in bringing this up again, to reiterate this is an anti-human edifice. What they're really saying is, if you can't meet the material standard that we arbitrarily set for your average American child, you were better off having an abortion.
Yeah, which they want to push.
That's what, that's
all we
that's
saw
the
on
point.
Twitter yesterday.
That's
is
the
the
point.
Dobbs second anniversary. That's what the left is pushing.
No,
They wanna
it's
make
not
this
just the
campaign
left.
about.
It's all of them. When Joe Frazier does it, whether he knows it or not, that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's saying you don't love your child because you couldn't make some trumped up child support payments, and he assumes because he's a him that works for Wells Fargo. Seriously,
It's it's a tricky one.
he's a him that works for Wells Fargo. He assumes the credibility of the American court system, and that's another reason why black people are moving. Because we here in the black community, we were never under the assumption that the American judicial system was fair and equal.
Yeah.
That it wasn't corrupt. We always knew. White people are just catching on. And I don't say that to be disparaging. I'm just telling you the way it is. It takes for Donald Trump to get convicted 34 times in what is clearly political for an entire swath of white folks around this country to go, oh, the courts aren't just. Negroes down in Minneapolis and St. Paul have been saying the courts aren't just since the 1960s.
It takes the orange man. It takes the orange man for.
And I love that. And I'm excited about that.
Right.
That's
Something
a
in the
source of
comments.
excitement.
What's the comment?
Jill MSH says, I disagree. I worked in the courts as a legal advocate, strongly biased towards father these days. And she goes on to say, Truth Seeker says the family court system won't help moms either. They are useless for both sides.
It's so it's like anyone that wants to make it a black and white issue. It's like, really?
No, let me
That
say
is
this.
a
No.
tough-
That first of all, that's a complete and utter lie. It's
What's
a
a lie?
complete and utter lie that it's useless on both sides. It's useless on both sides because the family court system is an anti-family court system. But the prejudice and bias, especially here in Minnesota and mostly all across the country, tilts towards women. That's why the majority of divorce custody battles favor women. 70-80% of the custody battles and situations that take place in divorces or out of wedlock paternity and parenting custody battles favor the women.
There's
The
situations.
federal government has become the husband and the protector of the modern American woman, and they have used that racket to destabilize the nuclear family. And if Kendall Qualls can't stand up and step up or come sit down here and tell you that, then his whole platform's a fraud. Nobody wants to piss off the women. And that's their other attack on me. You're a sexist. You're a misogynist. No. When Anna Navarro sits up on The View in front of a panel of other women and a crowd that is predominantly women, a live audience, and an audience on television that is predominantly women that are at home during the day, and say that men are useless, that the only men that are useful are gay men because they can accessorize
That's what she
and
said?
gossip.
Yeah, I
Oh,
didn't hear
God.
that, yeah.
Oh, God.
First of all,
really?
you're dehumanizing gay men, and I'm not a fan of theirs, but why are you reducing gay men down to gossip and accessories? But the point is, it has become accepted that men get the brunt of cultural decay here in America and the criticism, and we're supposed to carry it, and we're supposed to do it with a smile.
Yeah,
Not
that's
me.
true, 100%, I think.
Not me. I'm not doing it.
Oh,
Yep.
man. I want to go down this road because this is a very good conversation, but I know you got to run. So I want to cover a couple other things.
Okay.
Maybe on another one because this is interesting.
Campaign finance.
Yeah. So this is the other one. We watched the Tom Hauser one.
Yeah.
You had a packet for him because
Yes.
there was obviously a bunch of wire transfers and checks that didn't have itemized or wasn't itemized on the campaign finance report. What's the story behind that?
Well, the campaign finance, I mean, the FEC, first of all, anybody can look at my FEC report and just see that it was incomplete. It was just
Just meaning the wire transfers didn't have
the whole
vendor-
the whole file.
Okay.
Not just the wire, nothing specifically. There were no explanations for any disbursements on the entire final FEC
Oh, really?
report.
Not a single one?
Not a single one.
Oh, okay.
Now, obviously, I wasn't the treasurer. Okay, so between the treasurer and the campaign manager and the people who had those receipts, invoices, and the information needed to make those proper, filings, that didn't happen. The problem that I had, and we're amending those files, and it's going to be fine. I mean, the fact that the Daily Beast would actually say that the number's 157,000 without even calling and asking me is a telltale sign of what they're trying to do.
What did they say was 157,000?
They would say there was $157,000 of campaign contributions that were misappropriated.
Yeah. Well, it just didn't have an appropriation.
Well, yeah, if they don't have an explanation, you could say all of them.
Misappropriated sounds like they were given to the wrong spot, but
Okay, yes.
so it just needs to be clarified. What are some examples of what these
Okay,
would be?
for example, the packet that I brought to Tom Hauser
Yeah.
was about $50,000 worth of wire transfers.
Yep.
On the FEC file, they had no explanation.
Correct.
But on the wire transfer paper and internally, we know exactly who they went to. They went to people who were door knockers. They went to people who did email campaigns or text campaigns, or they went to videographers who were in charge of doing content. And I actually thought we got off cheap because some of these campaigns spend $1 million
Right.
for a campaign video. I mean,
That's the Tushy argument.
okay.
Do
Well,
you know Liberty Longbeard?
no, I'm
Oh,
not familiar.
Paul Tushy. Yeah, you like him.
So,
Have them on Thursday.
so we,
So
The
basically,
$50,000
vendors, legit vendors.
yes,
it
they were
just
legit
wasn't
vendors, but
entered.
I brought him the wire transfers to show him that the paper trail is there and the Daily Beast. What I'm showing you is that this story about this $157,000 has gone all around the world.
Yeah.
And people actually believe it, and it has no basis in reality whatsoever.
Well, it does in the sense that they were incomplete. You even said it.
Yeah, but
so
again,
then there's a
any
speculation
novice,
with
no,
somebody getting
stop,
paid.
wait.
Well, that's
Wait a
fair.
second. The
That's
Daily
fair, right?
Beast, the Campaign Legal Fund, all of these people have seen plenty of FEC reports. They knew from first glance that the report's incomplete,
Oh yeah,
that it was done improperly.
I know,
Right.
but once again, I think you would understand that people have a right to know what it is, right?
Oh, for
So
sure.
they were incomplete, so it needs to
Yeah,
be
no,
completed.
but see, that's not what they insinuate.
Listen, we're not the Daily Beast,
Right,
We're
but what I'm
obviously on
saying
your
is,
side. So
what
we're
I'm
not,
saying is no, but this is important because it's not propaganda. Isn't just lies. It's lies, but it's also things taken out of context, and it's the things that you don't see. It's the things that aren't said. It's the omission, and they know full well. They knew when they wrote the article that the intended consequence would be to insinuate that somebody stole money from the campaign.
sure,
And they
yeah.
try to insinuate that I stole money from the campaign. And the reason they're doing that is even more sneaky. It's not just to discredit me as a Republican or as an America Firster, to put me in alignment with Donald Trump. It's because I talk about the Fed and how the money works. So they think they can offset the brand of the
I
campaign.
think you're giving these guys too much credit. I think it's just
Oh, no,
he
they-
likes
no.
Trump. Let's get him.
No.
You think it's
Understand.
bigger?
There's a railhead.
Yeah.
The stuff that the Daily Beast writes comes right out of Langley.
Oh, really?
Oh, you don't
Beast,
think
huh?
so? You don't think the
It's
entire
your, I
mainstream
guess I don't
media's
give him enough
coordinated?
credit and
And
read
that's
him enough.
And that's the problem.
It's
there
actually
are
an
some
interesting
stupid
point.
writers.
Listen, I don't believe that that's
The
outside
editors
the realm
know.
of possibility. We'll put it that way.
The editors all know. Trust me. No, seriously. The editors all no. And I'll give you an example.
We just got him a nice viral video too.
I'll give you an example.
No, maybe it won't go viral. If it doesn't go viral, that's how we know it's the CIA.
I'll give you an
Right there.
example. There's a reason why the New York Times and the Star Tribune, which are considered credible media outlets, use the Daily Beast as a reference point.
Yeah,
There's the coordination.
yeah it's
You
interesting.
throw mud out on the wall, and then you can reference the mud because it was officially
That's right.
published.
They definitely do that.
The New York Times did it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the New York Times. You mean to tell me the New York Times can't look at that campaign finance report and go, wait a second, guys, hold on. I'm starting to think they're doing it for me.
Yeah.
And what I will say in defense of myself is, again, the FEC report is going to be amended, and that's going to be fine. Not only was there $50,000 in wires, there was $65,000 in checks. So
Yeah.
of 157, we're already now on to 115, 120. So now there's about $30,000 to be reconciled, and they say you can't go to Best Buy to buy a laptop, or you can't go to Guitar
No
Center
one's
to
saying
buy a
that because
microphone.
listen, I see the story, and what do? I go right to the FEC website. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to take the Daily Beast or whoever first reported in terms of my sphere. Probably not the Daily Beast. And I go, okay, yeah, it's not on there. So what is the explanation? I think you have a good explanation. When is that filing going to be available for people?
Shortly. I mean, I'm not in charge. I can't give you a final date because I'm not doing the amendment, but it'll happen probably here in the next week or so. But
Yeah, I think that would shut down the haters if
No,
it
it's
shows a
not.
bunch of vendors.
no, it's not
Yeah.
because
Well, at least on that line,
a lie gets around the world 2 times before the truth ever gets a chance to put his pants on.
Yeah, isn't
And
that
that's
Mark
the
Twain?
whole goal.
Mark Twain
But
saying
the
that?
problem they're going to have is, this is the problem. They got 2 problems on their hands. One is, once the amendment is filed, they just given me all the ammunition. And they've given me more free press than I could have ever planned for. The word
You
cunt.
have gotten
The
free
word
press.
cunt has gotten me more free press from this corrupt, Marxist, mainstream media industrial complex than being the most squeaky clean politician that this state has ever seen. And that tells you all you need to know about the reality TV WWE style of American politics.
Yeah.
That you got to have some dirt under your fingernails for the game to even be square. Because if not, they'll just continue to shill and put out propaganda for Amy about abortion rights. They don't want to talk about the Ukraine or the Fed.
Right.
So it's actually ended up being helpful. That's one issue they got. It's not true, and it's giving me all kinds of press. Dollars from you.
Yep.
But wait a second. That disbursement actually was on the campaign finance report.
Right,
Because I checked that.
right.
So that was used for food at a strip club.
Yes. Yes. I mean, the funny thing is, people don't even, and I asked David Packman this,
Yeah,
I go,
that's what I was
have
thinking
you
about.
ever been to a strip club? And he goes, yeah, once. Okay, yeah, you probably go to the Eyes Wide Shut groomer private parties.
Yeah.
Honestly, let's be real.
Right.
You never been to a strip club? Now you mean to tell me that the movement that promotes
Why
any-
go to a strip club when I can go to Epstein's Island, right?
the movement that promotes any manner of sexual perversion has a problem with a grown adult heterosexual male or a group of them going to a gentleman's club?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, let's follow that line of logic. Fine. If you're saying, cool. You don't even know that they sell food at strip clubs? No, and there's a lot of people who really don't know that. They're like, what are you talking about? But there's an entire different group of people who I guess aren't shy enough to say that they've ventured into a gentleman's club before,
Yeah.
who say, yeah, no, the food is usually really good. Actually, there's gentlemen's clubs that have world-renowned food. You take that for what it, but the point is, the whole strip, see, this is the funny thing. This is how they play. This is how you know it comes out of Langley.
Yeah.
Do you think for a minute, let me ask you this. Do you think for a single second that trying to make it seem like I personally walked into a strip club and spent money, campaign contributions on strippers, do you think that that's intended to disenfranchise me to black voters in CD5 and CD4 or Iron Range voters?
I mean, clearly Iron Range.
There you go. That's the point. No, and that is central to the whole issue.
Yeah.
Because conservatives need to understand when the media is actually
I
waging
mean,
an
you
info
walk
war
into that
against
because
them.
it's on your campaign finance board.
Yeah, but
or,
it
I mean,
doesn't
your,
matter. The point
FEC
is the
report.
intention. The intent.
I know, but see,
The intent is to.
You can.
No. Let me
I'm
tell
with
you.
you on blaming them
No,
on
wait,
a lot
let
of
me
things,
tell you.
but it's on your report.
Doesn't matter. The point is what the intent is. The Holocaust happened. The question is, why is it being used? And that distinction needs to be made. And if it's not made, then you're a fool. You're an idiot. And you deserve the gulag you're going to sit in. And you will sit in it. You are sitting in it now. They're just going to close the door.
Yeah.
The point is why it's being used. And right now, what they think is they can use rural America's conservative Christian identity to disenfranchise America First patriots who have dirt under their fingernails and are rough around the edges and aren't so obsessed with the thin veil of civility that has permeated the 501c3 Christian community in this country for 70 years. Polite, posh Christians who think their Christian identity is staked upon their not using profanity or not going into strip clubs. But meanwhile, their schools, their institutions, their government is taken over by Satanists. And they don't do well to make that distinction. So what they think is, see, the attack on me going to the strip club is just another attack on Trump. They're saying this guy was a philanderer. He was having sex with a porn star. He tried to pay her money. That's not Christian, is it? And how many Christians, how many registered Republican Christians sat out of the last election in Minnesota?
Yeah, good question.
Oh, I
Probably
think it was a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's a lot all across the country. Oh, so are the Muslims coming or are the Christians sitting out? What does the Alpha News tell you? And no, I'm serious. No, I'm serious. And this is Fox News too. And I got no problem with Alpha News. I think they're being pretty square on my race. But in general, I know what people are doing.
Yeah.
That's why people don't like me, because I get it. I know. I know what they're up to.
There's a lot of people that like you, though.
Don't tell me that the blacks and the Muslims are coming. Don't use the blacks to proliferate a police state. Don't use the Muslims to proliferate a military state around the world. No, you're an American citizen. And I never see Alpha News really really emphasize the importance of the Second Amendment and going out and buying a gun and knowing how to use it. Because if the blacks are coming, Jake, if a black man comes and kicks your door down as a United States Senator, I want you to have the right and the know-how and the skill to defend your family with your firearm.
Oh,
That's
God.
being an American.
I wish I wouldn't have lost in that tragic boating accident.
That's
then.
being an American.
Royce, I'm going to end on this. Where the hell do you get this from? Like, you got a voice. It's unique.
Okay.
You're very confident. You project very well. I think this is why. Where did that go? This is why people adored you at the convention. I mean, were you doing this at 12 years old? Were you doing it at 21? Where did you get this voice from? It's so interesting. We haven't even scratched the surface. There's so much more here.
No
I think
clue.
people are going to get to know you a little bit more in the next
No
month.
clue. I'm
but
fired up today, and I'll just tell you why. I got the voice from being an only child and spending a lot of time with myself and thought, and being exposed to enough to ask the right questions and attempt to answer them on my own. Answer them wrong sometimes, revisit it, come up with a better answer. Stuff American politicians and leaders are supposed to do,
Yeah,
right?
right.
I just happen to take a liking to that sort of thing at a young age, and I've been through the charnel house of the establishment, and I know how it works. And I understand the value of American citizenship. I understand the brilliance, the intellectual evolution that is citizenship in general, but specifically American citizenship. And I understand what it gives to American citizens. But I also understand the duty and the onus that's put on American citizens with it. And that's why our founding fathers say you get the government you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And so as well as I see the corruption of this establishment, of the permanent political class, of the global agenda, of all of these powers that be, I also understand that it's our convenience that will be the death of freedom. When we trade freedom for security and materialism, when we trade our freedom for convenience, we are to blame. When I let a Rachel Maddow tell me that Donald Trump isn't better for me because I'm a Christian and he had an extramarital affair with a porn star,
Maybe, allegedly.
when I let Rachel Maddow tell me that, I don't deserve. Our founding fathers said, if you trade your freedom for security, and in this instance, we're talking about the security of your Christian or spiritual identity.
Yeah.
If you trade your freedom for security, you will have neither, but even more importantly, you deserve neither.
Yeah.
If you will trade your freedom for the security, physical security, or the intellectual security of your own pretentious existence in your own mind, in your own little community, in your own household, if you will trade your freedom for that security, you will have neither, and you deserve neither. You won't have freedom or security. And that's where we are now. I'm voting for Donald Trump. You can't tell me about E. Jean Carroll. You can't tell me about Stormy Daniels. You can't tell me about the Cohen. You can't tell me about the Russians. You can't tell me about any. I'm voting for Donald Trump because we're voting to save a country, and to hold a country based on values, certain values like George Washington saying, don't get entangled in foreign wars. Don't get involved in foreign entanglements. Brilliant, profound, integral, fundamental.
Right.
Don't tell me about strip clubs. American citizens, I'm not that pretentious. I'm just not. If Donald Trump if they had footage of Donald Trump going to a strip club today, I'd still vote for him tomorrow.
Right.
And that's not to say he can do any and everything he wants to with no reproach. He's not beyond reproach. I'm not beyond reproach. But we're making an assessment based on the players that show up to play and what things they're willing to stand and fight for. And what's worse than somebody who has dirt under their fingernails, who's rough around the edges, who's willing to say the word cunt in reference to Barack Obama. What's worse than a person like that is a person who will stand for nothing.
Yeah.
That's Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
That's Lindsey Graham. That's Mitchell McConnell. That's Norm Coleman.
Yep.
That's Tim Pawlenty. They're just kind of fillers. They're a pair of steady hands. In D.C., they call them the steady hands. The steady hands are the people who you can always count on to forego the morals in a time of crisis to preserve the corruption.
Yeah.
Uniparty.
Uniparty. Wow. Okay. I know somebody on your campaign is getting very mad that I went 30 minutes past the hour. You got to go up to. Can we say where you're going today?
Detroit Lakes.
Detroit Lakes.
Nice.
Okay. I wasn't
Detroit
sure
Lakes.
if it was a private event or
People
whatever.
have said that on here. They're
Oh, they
excited.
did?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can't
so
wait.
we got to get them out of here. We'll do the rest of the show. We'll do the post show. Comments about our conversation with Royce. We'll do shoot. What was the? Oh, you got a story on automatic voter registration, Minnesota, and Marissa Simonetti. We'll talk a little bit about that in the post show. If you want to join our post shows for our subscribers only, just go to our Rumble page on Rumble. You can click join. It's for $8 a month. It's our subscribers. We'll give you the behind the scenes kind of stuff. Royce, it was a pleasure, man. I mean,
Thanks, man.
you are an interesting person to talk to. I'll
Thank
tell you that.
brother. Thank you.
So-
I enjoy coming over here and talking with you guys.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Yeah, anytime. Well, and focus on some campaign stuff too. So
We're gonna
don't,
get you on. Please call me crazy.
Yeah.
You too. I'm gonna bring you on the
100%.
podcast, and we'll do 3 hours.
Yeah.
We'll go
Well,
until
let's get into the real nature of politics on that.
for sure.
Because some of the stuff that we know is fun shit. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
Godspeed, man.
I might not always track the high level shit because I know it's some global elites, whether it's the English Crown or what I think the bankers.
For sure.
But whatever it is, we see it at the lowest levels of government, whether it's a city council, a county, and we beat the county sometimes. All right, there,
That's
Jesse.
right. Yep.
But certainly at the state and the federal level. So,
Amen.
well, thanks very much, Royce. And we're gonna be off air for just a minute or two before we get ready for the post show. So just click join on the Rumble channel. We'll be there right in Locals, which is what hosts our subscribers only. Thanks very much for tuning in.